Okay, how you doing, guys? Good evening. We apologize for running 5 minutes late. We were in executive session since about 5:45. And Mr. Pizzo, do you want to advise the public about our executive session? Yes. Well, I wanted to.
Certainly. As Mr. Knowles stated, council's been in executive session since approximately 5:45 this evening. Present for the executive session were the 5 members of council, the mayor, the director of administration, the township finance manager, Brian Bradley from RBC Capital Markets, and me. The matter discussed was a presentation by RBC Capital on the possibilities of refinancing some township bonds. No official action was taken during that executive session, and no official action is required at this evening's meeting as a result of that executive session.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, we're going to open up the meeting with a moment of silent meditation and a prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Pizzo, do we have anything on the agenda that's not on the agenda, is being removed, or?
Yes, item number 8 on this evening's council agenda, which is a minor land development for Millennium Properties and Investments. We received communication from the applicant earlier today. Apparently their notices went out. There was some confusion between this evening's council date because it's not our usual meeting date, and the Planning Commission, and to make a short story long, they need to send out new notices. So in order to give them additional time to accomplish that, as well as other things that they may need to do for this application, they have requested that we table this evening's meeting and table it forward to a date certain of your first meeting in November.
Okay, and it was on the paperwork for their tonight's presentation that they needed to go to zoning for additional variances, and I don't know whether they've done that or not. Or whether
I don't know. That wasn't part of this today's communications.
Okay,
Perhaps
so you
that
can find
may be.
that out, make sure that
They have not.
So they're going to have to do that. It states that they're going to have to do that.
The record should also reflect that the communication from the applicant gave the township an extension of time under the municipality's planning code for the consideration of the minor land development application through and to including December 31, 2019.
Okay, so we should move it to a date certain on November 12th, is that what you're saying?
If that is our first meeting in November, yes, please.
Okay, so anybody want to make a motion?
I'll second.
Okay.
I just have one question. Is that going to give them enough time to get in front of zoning prior to coming to council?
I don't know if they have an application in and they're in the queue to be in the November, on the November agenda. If they are and they're on that agenda, then certainly yes. If not, then we may be
Then we'll have to
tabling
bump it
again
again
at
that
November
point.
12
Okay.
meeting.
Understood.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, so that's moved. Okay, we have public comment on any agenda items. We will have an opportunity when the agendas come up. Okay, and we have public comment at the end, so seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment for the agenda items. The first award ceremony we have is for our police. Okay, so a presentation to the police for the awards. Fred Harron, are you handling this? Yes. Okay. Fred is, of course, our Director of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, mayor, and of course our residents and guests that came out here tonight. I know we have a lot lot of great awards. I'm glad that we're actually going first, because I'm glad that the young people are about to hear some pretty interesting cases that have happened in Bensalem, that officers have gone above and beyond. But today I'm lucky enough to be able to come here to share a couple of these incidences with you. But it's every day that the 100+ officers in Bensalem Township do a phenomenal job, and I hear that everywhere I go. And what's happening now with Bensalem Township Police Department is that a lot of municipalities, a lot of states, and in some cases a lot of countries, believe it or not, are starting to inquire some of the things we're doing here and are trying to replicate that, not only throughout Pennsylvania, not only throughout the United States, but also throughout the entire world, which is actually hard to believe, I guess, in some cases. But people have been asking for some of the things that we're doing, how we do it, and what's the secret to Bensalem. And really the secret is the support that we get from all of you, and mayor and council, and certainly the residents and the amazing men and women that work here in Bensalem Township. The 2019 numbers are not in yet. We've got a couple months left, but in 2018, over the last decade or so, we've continued to see amazing decreases in crime in Bensalem Township. In some cases for burglaries, people breaking into houses and businesses, up to 42% reduction, where the national average is about a 4.5%. But here in Bensalem Township, because some of the great projects that we have going, we're seeing 42% reduction in burglary. We're seeing a 51% reduction in robberies, and we're seeing this across the board. But with it, besides from fighting crime and the men and women that are out there and sometimes writing tickets to people that aren't very happy about the tickets, but we do that for a reason, to protect lives and to slow people down. We've got a lot of other programs that are going on, and I'm sure you saw recently a press release. We are the only ones in Pennsylvania where you can come into the police station and through a video assessment, if you are suffering from opioid or any drug addiction, no questions asked, no fear of arrest, we will put you in front of a video screen to talk to an assessment counselor, and we will get you treatment no matter what your financial situation is. No matter what your financial situation is. And we are the first and only right now, people are now inquiring, how did we do it, to be replicated throughout Pennsylvania. Our behind closed doors, they're now being requested. It's a trailer that was bought with zero tax money, all through community donations and groups like the Building a Better Bensalem and Frank Schilling's group, the Bensalem, the Mayor's Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board, through many other businesses that have donated money to provide this piece of equipment to show 100 signs of the dangers or what could be in your child's bedroom for drugs, for unhealthy relationships, for mental health issues, and for teen violence. We've been requested, I haven't gone, so don't worry, from Baltimore to go and take this to Baltimore. That's as furthest as we've been, but I won't go to Baltimore. We're not going to Baltimore, but we're being requested all throughout Bucks County, and certainly in Bensalem Township. We were just at one of our schools, and this is certainly open to anybody in Bensalem, any house of worship, any school, any daycare, and certainly it's free of charge. And there's many other projects that we have going on, and we're very lucky to have your support. It's ever so important now, especially the crisis that we're facing in the country with the opioid epidemic, and you'll hear some things related to that with drugs and alcohol, but drugs specifically. So we're holding the line, and we border Philadelphia, which is a great city to visit. It's a good partner for us in law enforcement, but they have their problems, and we've been very, very lucky here in Bensalem Township to be able to hold the line. While people are decreasing law enforcement throughout their communities, we're holding the line, if not increasing it. We're getting enough and more to do the work to keep everybody, the 62,000 people that live here and the 200,000 people that come into this town daily, safe, and make sure that we have the tools, the training, the supervision, the expertise, and the person power, the manpower, the woman power to do the job and protect everyone so we can continue to have those 42% reductions. And as you're going to hear, we have some of our partners here. After 9/11, this country was rocked. But the one thing that we learned is that we can't sit by ourselves on an island. And we have our federal partners here, and I just want him to raise his hand. Jim Christie, who's the supervisory special agent of the FBI for Bucks and Montgomery County, and many of the FBI, other part of the task force and agents are here, but we work together. We learned after that tragic day that we can't work independent. We have to work together. And leadership and people that we get from the FBI and the ATF and DEA every single day. And you'll hear some of the cases today of that partnership and how it prevailed and how, one officer's life was saved and bad guys were put in jail because of that partnership. And we're going to talk about that in about a minute or so. But it's that great work. And Jim, thank you and the FBI for all your great work and your support here in Bensalem Township. I know we have a great relationship. So, and of course, all the kids that are here. We have so many people. Rob Speinheimer working with, the Lady Bombers, who has more FaceTime than anybody I know, more Facebook time than any group I know. So it's a great organization. But let's get on to while I'm here. And I want to talk about a couple of quick cases that are, we have these type of jobs almost every day, but there's 4 of them that rose to some special awards today, and I wanted to share that with you. On September 11th, 2018, well, first, can I have Detective Chris McMullen, Detective Dave Nieves, Detective Brian Oliverio, Detective Sergeant Adam Coleman, and Bucks County Deputy District Attorney Kristen McElroy come forward. We have a district attorney with us today, a deputy district attorney, under, of course, the leadership of Matt Weintraub, our great district attorney. And Matt's office is just amazing, working with us every day. And Chris is just another example of that partnership, everybody working together. I know a wise man once said, I think he's sitting on this dais, that, we need teams to get this done. Get it? Okay, all right. Here we go. So on September 11, 2018, a victim contacted the Bensalem Township Police Department and reported that she was repeatedly sexually assaulted over the course of 3 years by Dr. Thomas Padicle. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. The crime occurred nearly 10 years ago, and there was no known physical evidence. The victim was only 8 years old when the sexual abuse started. An investigation was conducted by Detective Chris McMullen, Detective Dave Nieves, Detective Brian Oliverio, under the supervision of Detective Sergeant Adam Coleman. This investigation lasted several months, including 3 different states, multiple search warrants, court orders, a wire intercept, and a Facebook takeover. Bucks County Deputy District Attorney Kristen McElroy was also instrumental, and she remained a vital part of this investigation. When you have investigations with all this electronics and all these court documents, you're on the phone minute by minute with the DA, moving this way, moving that way. These are very complex investigations. The case went to trial on June 18, 2019, and concluded on June 21, 2019. The offender was found guilty on all charges only after 21 minutes of jury deliberation. These investigators and Deputy District Attorney Kristen McElroy went above and beyond. They were able to take a 10-year-old case with little evidence and were able to make an arrest and secure conviction. Because of their training, persistence, dedication in the arrest of a child predator, you are hereby recognized for the performance as a team to achieve an outstanding accomplishment with the Bensalem Township Police Department Unit Citation Award. We should also know, before we give him the award, he was sentenced, by coincidentally, today, by Judge McHugh, 15 to 30 years in prison. He won't be hurting anybody anytime soon. Mayor, Council President,
Hey, Greg.
In case you want to share.
Officer Felix Adorno. This guy's unbelievable. Officer Adorno has been with a proactive police officer focused on DUI enforcement since he started with the Bensalem Township Police Department in 2015. He routinely leads the police department each year in DUI arrests. In 2018, Officer Adorno had 60 DUI arrests, which accounted for 20% of the overall 301 DUI arrests made by the entire department. He also investigated 731 incidents reports and made 260 vehicle stops, which were among the highest on his patrol squad. Officer Adorno has requested and received numerous trainings in regard to DUI investigations. He attended basic standard field sobriety testing in May of 2018 and DUI case law training in June of 2018. Officer Adorno continues his DUI training with the Advanced Roadside Impaired Driver Enforcement in March of 2019 and DUI checkpoint in May of 2019. Officer Adorno routinely assists other patrol officers with DUI investigations by helping them with field sobriety testing. Officer Adorno is currently interested in becoming a drug recognition expert and is currently looking to attend that required training. DUI enforcement is a top priority for the Bensalem Township Police Department, and Officer Adorno has made DUI enforcement one of his top priorities as well. And he's made a significant impact on DUI enforcement within Bensalem Township. Bensalem Township is a much safer community due to the efforts of Officer Felix Adorno. Based on Officer Adorno's DUI enforcement efforts, he was awarded with the Pennsylvania DUI Association 2019 Top Gun Award. Detective Tommy Jackson, please come up. Beginning in April of 2019, investigators have responded to at least 10 robberies where a tall white male wearing a hooded sweatshirt, mask, and gloves entered the stores, produced a black revolver-style pistol, and demanded money from employees. These incidences occurred in both in Bucks County, Bensalem Township, Pennsylvania, Hamilton, New Jersey areas. Detective Thomas Jackson is a member of the FBI Bucks Montgomery County Safe Streets Task Force, partnering with the FBI, or partners with the FBI. While in that capacity, he investigated these robberies. As a result of Detective Jackson's tenacious investigations, he was able to identify the two actors. This identification led to a surveillance detail, and ultimately both suspects were caught in the commission of a robbery at a 7-Eleven store. Due to your intelligent and valuable police service and brilliant execution of police skills resulting in an outstanding arrest, you are hereby recognized with the Bensalem Township Police Department Outstanding Service Award. The next one is kind of a continuation from the one we just had. Would Detective Jack All please come forward? On June 6, 2019, at approximately 8:30 p.m. hours, Detective Gall responded to the area of the 300 block of Unionville Road to assist with the surveillance of a residence in a vehicle of two male suspects who were believed to be actors in a series of robberies of 7-Eleven convenience stores. Since April of 2019, investigators have responded to at least 10 robberies where a tall white male wearing a hooded sweatshirt, mask, gloves entered the store, produced a black revolver-style pistol, and demanded money from the employees. These incidences occurred both in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and Hamilton, New Jersey. The suspect's vehicle left the residence and was observed by Detective Gall a few minutes later near a 7-Eleven store on Pine Street in Langhorne Borough. Detective Gall then observed a tall male subject wearing a hooded sweatshirt run from the corner of the building directly to the front door of the 7-Eleven. The male had a fixed black knife in his right hand, and his face was obscured from the hood being tied tight. Detective Gall advised on police radio, robbery in progress, then exited his vehicle alone and observed the actor jump over the counter and approach the male employee who was standing by the front registers. Detective Gall entered the store with his weapon drawn and gave verbal commands for the actor, and the actor ignored these commands. The male began to rush towards Detective Gall, and Detective Gall was forced to discharge his service weapon twice at the suspect, which stopped his aggressive actions and incapacitated the male. The male then threw his knife, and Detective Gall was able to secure the male from his weapon. Detective Gall then immediately began to administer first aid and requested a rescue squad. The suspect and the getaway driver, who was located a short time later, were both arrested and charged with several armed robberies. Due to your display of courage, bravery, and an act above and beyond the call of duty when confronted with an armed and dangerous subject that exposed you to danger with the possibility of serious injury or death, you are hereby recognized for your outstanding service with the Bensalem Township Police Department Valor Award. Thank you very much. Just thank you for your continued support of the police department. Thank you so much.
We'll give them a second to exit, but congratulations to all the award winners for our police, and congratulations to our police force in general. Do a great job for our community. Get the door shut. What the send SWAT out there. Okay, next on the agenda for the presentations is presentation of certificates for the 2018-19 Lower Bucks Lady Bombers, who won 5 tournaments this year, finished 7th out of 64 teams in the USSA Eastern Nationals in Ocean City, Maryland in July. And this is a group of girls that have been very successful this season and in the past, and we're very proud of them. I think they're going to have more success in the future, but we want to take the opportunity to give them certificates for their achievement. Okay, so we have the Bombers coaches that are available today. And my mayor and myself will come up and give out the presentations. Yeah, you coach. Does someone want to speak on their, any other accolades for the team?
Yeah, sure, I will.
Yeah, you want to real quick?
Yep,
Yep.
yeah, most definitely. Like the mayor just said, thank you, Mayor and Council. This team's a tremendous group of young ladies. They're fun to coach. We've been coaching, what, 4 years now? 4 years. 4 years, some of them longer. But it all started with, and a lot of you guys know, is Drew Hacker, who ran Carrabba's. We lost Drew 2 years ago. Drew's daughter's with us, one of our players, and Coach Drew taught these girls, and we just continued going on. We want to thank you guys. When did we get the field dedicated? Last spring, the field at the community park was dedicated to Coach Drew. It's important. Drew always wanted the place for the girls to have. The boys have plenty of place to play, and it seems like the girls never got that. And as a dad growing up, I didn't think of that when I was a kid. Now I have a daughter playing, and I'm like, hey, it's not fair. It's not fair. And me and Drew talked about it many times. And these girls got their field now, and they practice all the time. If we cancel practice, we get phone calls, we get yelled at. They're tremendous. 8th and 9th grade students, and they just keep pushing, and they're not going to stop. And you're going to see a bunch of them playing in college one day, no doubt in my mind. And ultimately, even if they don't, they're good people. They really are. You just saw at the police department, there's a lot of stuff going on in the community, and it's scary out there. And if we can keep these girls busy, that's part of our job. So we're with them all the time. We keep working, right? You guys just won again last weekend. Yep, they got a ring. She's got a ring on her finger. We want a championship. She got it. Show her the ring. Yeah. So we appreciate it, and we'll give out these awards here. Thank you.
Have your head coach? Is
Yes.
this your head coach?
Aaron Smith's our head coach.
Okay.
Bill Knowles, assistant coach. Mike McLean, the other assistant coach.
Okay.
All right, and then we'll start off here. First, Angelina Sponheimer.
Congratulations. Good job.
Stay up here. Get a picture here.
Next is Marlena Hacker. Ava Knowles.
Full disclosure, she's my niece.
Congratulations. Good job.
Robin Charlton.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, dear. Good job.
Riley Bilbrey.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Great job you guys did.
Tower McLean. Maddie Nelson.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Good job.
Rachel Santiago. Rachel Allen.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Good job.
Giselle McLaughlin.
So, congratulations.
Congratulations. Good job, guys.
Anna Coulter.
Congratulations. Yep.
Congratulations. Good job.
Elise Jewell.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And last but not least, Mara Gorman.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Good job.
Michaela Stoop was not able to make it tonight, but we'll make sure she gets it. And coaches, I got one for each of you guys. Again, thank you, Mayor, Council. We appreciate all your support. These girls are great. We'll keep doing good things, I promise.
Let's get a quick picture. Alan will be there. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have one more. Thank you. We have one more set of awards here and presentation certificates to our students from Bensalem High School Community Service Club. It's a very important club. They volunteered this year during the concert series at the Penn Community Bank Amphitheater for our concert series, and they helped out at the front, checking everybody in and keeping the costs down for the community. And this group of kids is out there every event. That they're out there helping. They're helping with our pancake breakfast at Rotary. They're the waiters Saturday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. So they do a lot for our community. And Mark Cohen helps run that with part of the Rotary Club too, actually. But so Mark, you come up and we'll give these certificates out with the mayor.
I think some of the kids aren't here. I know Mahadi is here.
Well, you handle it.
Just handle the ones that are here.
Okay,
You know which
okay.
ones
Talk
are
a
which.
little bit about them.
Let us know what they're.
Yeah, let me talk about our group here. I want to thank Amanda McDonald and Dawn Davis and Council for honoring our kids today. In 2014, I went to a Rotary conference. I was amazed there was no Rotary Interact Club at the high school. I contacted Dr. Ball and Vice Principal Mrs. Hope and Community Service Club Advisor Ms. Reddy. We put a club at the high school. Judy Patel at the time was the president. She suggested that we raise money for the Advocates for the Homeless. Many of our kids in the club have went on to great careers. Trudy is one of the top medical students in the country. She had one of the highest scores in the MCATs. Over the years, we've expanded the Rotary events. The kids are our waiters and waitresses at our pancake breakfast. This November 4th, they will be raising money for our raffle basket table and selling 50-50 tickets. Last year, with the Eagles cheerleaders, they raised close to $500 that day. Miss Reddy retired in March of 2019. I became the temporary advisor appointed by Jeff Parr, the vice principal. Over the years, our club has made many improvements. The officers can handle any task. Even when a teacher retired, they ran the club on their own. When Amanda contacted me, I referred her to our new president, Meet Patel, treasurer Dhruv Patel, vice president Sumaya DeFeo is with us also tonight. He immediately, with his officers, booked in every concert for the summer. I was amazed. The kids were off, but they still volunteered. I want to invite everybody to our Rotary Bowling event, November 4th at 7 p.m. at Bolera. The Philly Fanatic will be with us, and he invites everybody. Before the event, the retired NFL players will have a meeting at 7. They will join us after. Thanks again. We appreciate the honors tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Meet, come up. You can help us with this. Okay. Let's see. Faison, I don't think Faison's here. Sami's not here. Okay.
No, she's not here.
Okay.
No, she's not here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mahadi.
here.
Mahadi Nuhash.
Mahadi, congratulations.
And Mahadi and Meet both went to our, when they were freshmen, they went to our RILA event, which is in Valley Forge. It's a youth leadership program for Rotary. They both went and they learned all about Rotary and they brought it and became, of course, Meet became our president. Yep. Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Okay.
He's not here.
Okay. Okay. Amadat Shrivastava. Yeah.
Right, yeah, he was.
We were practicing for that name.
Nice hair, buddy. He looks good. Okay.
Do you have one for these kids or?
No, they are our officers.
Oh, okay.
They are our
officers,
officers. Yep. Okay.
All right, you want to name the other people?
Yeah,
Or you
yeah.
want to have
Okay.
your buddy do it? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you.
Go ahead. You
name
do it. You're the president.
Give them credit.
Let the
Brett.
president
Give
do
them
it.
credit. Just name the other kids that are involved.
Okay, so the other kids that volunteered this summer are Tia Patel, Kushi Patel, Sammy Rana, Faizan Awan, Mohammed Hanzala, Shiv Patel, Alexandra Hernandez, Shannon Macmillan, and Arjun Patel.
Okay, congratulations. Can you get that to them?
Yeah. We'll get that to them.
We're going to get a couple pictures? Yep. Those kids do a great job. They show up at everything that needs to be done. It's amazing the amount of kids that show up to help. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of council minutes for the meeting September 9th, 2019. Do we have any corrections that anybody noticed need to be done?
I had a couple minor editorials. See if I can walk you through this real quick. page 2, last paragraph, said it didn't made sense, should be make sense. Page 5. On item number 12, the overall intent use, it should be intended use. Yeah, intended use. And then the next paragraph down, indicated he has been informed. And that's all I had. That's it, thanks.
That's it? Okay. Nothing else? Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a
With the-
motion
with
that
the
we
corrections?
accept as corrected.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote aye. Okay. Any against? So the minutes are passed. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is number 4, is consideration and public hearing on an ordinance approving the request of Crafty Crab Bensalem Incorporated to transfer a liquor license into the township, repealing all inconsistent ordinances and establishing an effective date thereof. Mr. Pizzo, do you have this, or do we have representatives here from?
Just by way of introduction, as council is aware, although the public may not be, at any time that a business owner wishes to transfer a liquor license, a retail liquor license, into the township from outside of our borders, the current state of the state law requires there to be a hearing before this body on that request. Under our township code, the approval of that request is effectuated by ordinance. The ordinance before you this evening is proposed to authorize the transfer of the liquor license for the Crafty Crab from Rob Bob Restaurant in Telford, Bucks County. The hearing on the ordinance has been properly advertised, and the ordinance is in a form acceptable for your consideration this evening. Representative of the applicant is here this evening for the purpose of making the introduction and notifying council of the various requirements under the ordinance that need to be met. So with that, I'll hand it over to council.
Good evening, members of council, board president, and Mr. Mayor, Mr. Solicitor. My name is Ed McHugh, and I am the liquor license attorney for Crafty Crab Bensalem, LLC. With me today is Zen Lin and also Quinn Young. They're both here today. They're both members of the LLC, and they are, Quinn Young is also the on-site manager. The restaurant is currently in operation. It's the Crafty Crab restaurant, and the corporate name is Crafty Crab Bensalem, LLC. It's located at 1847 Street Road. We are here before you, as council stated, to get your permission through resolution to transfer the liquor license from, I think it's from Tilford Township into Bensalem. Before we can apply for the application before the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, we must obtain that. The way I would like to proceed with your permission is really just kind of give you a summary of you know, the operation, give you an idea of the kind of alcoholic beverages that Crafty Crab may want to offer their customers. I can open it up to questions for you know, to my clients if that's okay. I do have an exhibit packet for your consideration today. If it's okay, I'd like to pass it out to council.
That's fine, yeah.
Did you bring samples?
No. They have plastic gloves they give out of there, so they couldn't eat it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Contained in that packet is a site plan, some photographs, the current menu that is in place. There's 3 licenses currently in safekeeping. All of those 3 licenses are unavailable for sale. That was made, and I have a letter here from the broker who actually was involved in the sale from this R license into the township. They made those inquiries, so those licenses currently in safekeeping in Bensalem Township. One is an Acme, the other one is the Diner on Street Road, which is currently in safekeeping and only available at that location. And then there's another license that's also unavailable. I inquired myself with the attorney who was representing that client. So Crafty Crab restaurants there are other locations in operation. There's 2 in Maryland. I think there is one in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's 6 restaurants in Florida, and they all operate in really the same manner. They offer a Cajun seafood fare, and that's the same thing is taking place here in Bensalem. Their hours of operation are going to be, or are right now, 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 12 p.m. through 12 a.m. Friday and Saturday. Those hours will remain the same, whether they're licensed or not. There will be no entertainment other than TVs that are currently in operation at the premises. There'll be no live bands or anything of that nature. No seating outside. There'll be no takeout alcoholic beverages. I believe there will be some takeout food. Is there takeout food available? Okay, so that's available. That'll continue to be available. No takeout alcoholic beverages, however. The percentage of food versus alcoholic beverages breakdown based on the operations of the other restaurants will be, what is it?
8 to 10%.
Okay, so 8 to 10% alcoholic beverages versus food. There is a bar inside, and there will be a bar inside. It's really not operational at this point, but that's really, if you look at the site plan, that's kind of right in the center of the premises. The place is 1,300 square feet. The capacity is 359 people, and that all will remain the same whether they're licensed or not licensed. They will include some of the local craft beers and wines. They will offer Pennsylvania and local brews at their restaurant. It is a family-oriented restaurant, and it will continue to be a family-oriented restaurant. There are tables really, the restaurant's dominated by table seating and booth seating. They have been made aware of the responsible alcohol management program requirement. That's actually a requirement if and when the premises does become licensed. The servers and the manager will be required to take that course in order to continue to be licensed and their license be held in good standing with the liquor board. I would like to open it up for some questions if you have any questions for my clients. But we're here today and we're asking that you pass a resolution approving the transfer to this.
Just to confirm, this is a restaurant liquor license, right?
This is a restaurant. It does not currently have a liquor license.
No, but I mean, the one you're transferring is what type of license?
It's an R license, so it's a full restaurant liquor license, which, you know, it's for beer, wine, liquor. It also provides for, it's the whole, it provides for all premises catering, and there's, there are other licenses that don't have those same.
Well, we've had other people transfer a restaurant, and in my opinion, they weren't really, you are a restaurant. You know what I mean?
I understand.
I went there, they didn't have the bar. I don't drink myself, but their bar was nice area.
Right.
It's wide open, it's clean, it's a very nice facility, and I wish you luck in your success besides this too also.
Did you say the square footage was 1,300 square foot? I don't think that's accurate.
13,000.
Oh,
Exactly.
13,000. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, it's pretty big.
I'm sorry. I read that wrong.
Yeah, 13,000 sounds right.
13,067.
It's big.
I've got a question about the licenses that are currently in safekeeping. They're all listed with an expiration date at the end of November. Had you considered, waiting the less than 2 months to acquire one of those licenses when they expire? How does that work?
So that really doesn't impact anything, the
Okay.
expiration date. It's just if they're available for transfer.
And if they choose to renew them, that's out of your hands anyway?
Exactly.
Okay.
And they don't necessarily just pass out of existence after the expiration date. They'll still, there's like a year grace period for them to actually file
Okay.
a renewal or validation application.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
Is there any other questions from, hey, any other questions from any of the council people? Is there anybody that would, I mean, I'm just saying that I was only there a couple times, but it's a really beautiful restaurant. People were waiting for it to open. It's at the Brookwood Shopping Center. People are, and I was really shocked the size of it. It's really big. Like Mr. Gisselback said, it's way more than 1,300 square feet. And you have sinks outside even to wash your hands if you don't have to go to the restroom. And the bar area looked very nice in the center. There's plenty of room, and the tables are very nice. So I think you have a nice facility. I hope you're going to be successful and be here for a long time. We need somebody there for a long time in that spot. We really do, you know?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
All that, I've also been there, that open space you have around the bar, is that gonna be open? Is that gonna add tables in there eventually, or, I mean, I know you have plenty of tables, I know that.
We're not gonna add any at the table.
So it's gonna be open space.
Queen Young, QINYANG.
Open space. Okay, is there, Mr. Pizzo, is everything in order as far as being advertised and such? And,
Yes.
okay, do we have public comment on this?
Yes.
Matter? Oh, I thought so. Okay, is there anybody that would like to come up to speak for or against this transfer? Seeing no one come forward. Okay, is there a motion that someone wants to make?
Oh, go ahead. I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, congratulations.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
You want these
All right,
packets
good.
back so you
And-
have them?
And good luck.
I'm sorry?
You want the packets back, sir?
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
And good luck. Okay, thank you. Yeah, the food's good. It's a really interesting place. And they give you bibs too, which is good, right?
$250, all right, well, it's good. Up in Maine, yeah. All right. Good.
You know what I mean? It's a real restaurant. Yeah, it's big. Yeah, it's big.
Just, you know, like it's,
Yeah.
it's good.
Okay, number 5 on the agenda.
It's a good little beer, it's cheap.
Consideration of a resolution authorizing upgrade of existing traffic signal located on Bensalem Boulevard and New Falls Road to add GPS time clock, revise the system, run along Bensalem Boulevard, and retime the signal. Do you have this, Mr. Pizzo?
Unless Ron wants it, I'll be happy to take it. Thought so. What I'm about to say would apply to both items 5 and 6. So
Yeah,
even though
it's
you'll be voting on them
lights right
separately,
along the same period of time.
they're both the same underlying premise. As council is aware, the township has been engaged in the upgrade of signals throughout the township as part of the interactive technology that has the signals, for all intent and purposes, speaking to one another and making adjustments as necessary based on traffic that's being identified by new computer technology and cameras that are mounted on top of the mast arms instead of the old pads that are underneath the road. As the township proceeds along in that process, we're now dealing with intersections located along Bensalem Boulevard. And so the first intersection, which is the resolution that you're dealing with right now, would be the intersection of Bensalem Boulevard and New Falls Road. The application is to PennDOT to allow us to make the modifications to the signalized intersection to install the new technology and to retime the signal. As council is aware, anytime we make changes to any traffic signal along a PennDOT highway, it requires us submitting to PennDOT a new application for whatever changes it is that we propose to that signal. So the application, as council will see, is the standard form application that you've now seen multiple times over the course of the last several years. It is in a form that has been reviewed and prepared by the township traffic engineer and the administration. It is in a form acceptable for your consideration and approval this evening, and the administration asks that you do so.
Okay, is there any questions?
Yeah.
In reference to the timing?
Well, I've got a question on the last page of both of these packets. There's an email that states in part that the work is being completed and paid for by a private project in Bristol Township. Can somebody explain that?
No, I apologize, I cannot. Again, whatever project in Bristol Township that's driving the work on this side, the work, obviously, it's to the township's benefit that those costs will be paid
Okay, so this
by
is at...
someone outside of the
All right, so I
taxpayers
just want
of
to be clear, this is
Bensalem.
at no cost to Bensalem,
Yeah.
apparently.
No cost is perhaps too general a phrase, but the costs that would
The
otherwise
direct cost
be
of
paid
replacing
by
and
a
upgrading the system.
The costs that would otherwise be paid by a third party are being paid by a third party, in this case, whatever the business or
Okay.
property owner in Bristol Township is.
Okay,
Or for that matter, it could be the township itself.
right, okay, thank you.
And that's right at the beginning of New Falls Road where the township
Yep.
is, and there's a
Well, it's
business.
also Bensalem Boulevard and Gibson Road.
Yeah, the next one over,
So-
yep. I think those coordinate each other, and that does need to be timed better, believe me, I live right down the street, and it's difficult sometimes, especially when no one's there and you're sitting there, but, okay, any other questions?
Just one. Mr. President, do you know how long we can expect to have that work done?
Again, I apologize, I'm not that deep in the weeds on this, other than I've been asked to shepherd the resolutions through this evening, and that's as much as I can tell you. Perhaps Ron does.
Just a sec.
We'll have to do this to PennDOT, and then as soon as PennDOT gives us the approval, we'll get this done.
Yeah, to that extent, as Mr. Knowles is properly suggesting, and I don't say this as a criticism, but an observation, the wheels at PennDOT sometimes grind at their own pace, and so as this works its way through their...
Well, we can be assured the sooner we do this, the sooner it's going to get done. So,
Sure.
I mean, it's going to get done, so. Okay, so we're going to consider one item at a time, right, Joe?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. In reference to Byberry, if there isn't any other questions, does someone want to make a motion in reference to this resolution?
I'll make the motion. Consideration approving unauthorizing the upgrade of the existing traffic signal at Bensalem Boulevard and New Falls Road / Bridge Road.
Okay.
I'll
And-
second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay. Okay, number 6 on the agenda, consideration of resolution authorizing the upgrade of the existing traffic signal located at Bensalem Boulevard and Gibson Road, which I think they do affect each other because they're so close, to add a GPS time clock, all intersections of systems, which I assume will be hooked up together. So are there any questions about getting this light also done?
The only question I had on this one, we know that there's potential plans for an event at the old, was it the Croydon Mansion? Would the adaptive nature of the signal be affected at all by increased traffic along Gibson Road in that area? Ron, maybe that's a question for you.
Well, we have to find out what the ultimate use is going to be in traffic generation to be computed, and then think about the retime.
But it would just be an issue of retiming, no hardware
Yeah, they
change.
reset them according to the
Got it.
GPS.
Okay.
Counts the cars and then they...
That's perfect, that's all I wanted to
Then
know.
they reset them. Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to, in reference to consideration of this
I'll
resolution?
make the motion. Approving the resolution authorizing the upgrade of the existing traffic signal at Bensalem Boulevard and Gibson.
Okay, Mr. Palario, second?
I'm allowed, yes.
Okay, yeah, okay, yes. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, so that's good, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, request for waiver of curbs and sidewalks installation on the subject to payment in fee of lieu of for the applicant Tom Snyder for 2519 Unionville Road, 23298. And we have some additional information for this.
I believe when this was last in front of council, council had asked some questions as to the viability of installing curbing in front of the subject property. And I believe Mr. Gans and his firm have prepared some answers to council in that regard.
Yes, council asked for what might be planned in the future for the drainage in that area. You have in front of you, you have 5 there, but only the first page applies. And Mr. Benner is going to explain what's on that plan and what's planned for the future.
Okay, and this is Mr. Better from your same office, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay, engineer.
If you look at the plan that's in front of you, what we did was we wanted to show there are 3 properties that front along Humeville Road, south of the Woodbine Avenue intersection. 2 of those houses, the 2 on what I'll call the ends, have been constructed. The project that's in question, or the house that's in question in the sidewalk waiver, is the center of those 3 properties. The 2 ones on the end have already been constructed. As you can see from this plan, what I'll call the west side of Humeville Road, on the opposite side of Humeville Road, there is curb and a storm drainage system that has been installed there. And then also, if you look along Woodbine Avenue, there has been curbing installed along the one property that was recently completed only on Woodbine Avenue, but not in front of the property on Humeville Road. All of the drainage that comes off of Humeville Road is directed on to the 2 existing properties and will be directed on to the proposed property if this moves forward. And each one of these properties has seepage areas, stormwater seepage areas, essentially stone-filled pits in the backs of each one of those properties. There's 2 existing, and there's 1 proposed with that new center lot construction. The drainage from Humeville Road on what I'll call the new house side will be directed to those seepage areas and will be incorporated with the drainage from the lots and allowed to percolate into the ground. The other feature that is shown on this plan, and we thought it would be a good idea to show this in context, is obviously the neighbors from the Woodbine Avenue area have been in to talk about storm drainage. As a result, the mayor and I and Quentin from our office went out and talked to these residents, and we provided a sketch showing how we could improve that drainage. And we've been asked, and we're currently preparing a proposal to do that work. Essentially, that work would reference drainage and inlet improvements out in Woodbine Avenue, and then essentially a reconstruction of a larger pipe as it goes down through the properties to the rear yard area. And then also, which I think is important to help that issue there, we'd be putting another inlet in that particular line, which would help pick up the water from Humeville in these rear yard areas that would get past any of those particular seepage areas. The question in front of council tonight, the need to put curbing in front of that middle lot, the recommendation or observations we can provide is, curbing is a useful tool in A, delineating the edge of the road and protecting the edge of the road, and B, also providing some drainage improvements. But the key to that is it really has to be part of an overall system, not just isolated to, as in this case, this center property, and even really not as it relates to even the 3 properties. You can see on that opposite side of Humeville Road, that curbing there goes extensively both north and south on Humeville Road, has an inlet collection system in it. Our concern is that if we put, there was some curbing in front of there, we would be concerned that it would concentrate some of that water that comes across Humeville and adversely affect the adjoining properties, which would be south of the property in question. So I thought it would be a good idea, just you can see that. It illustrates it good on this plan, I think. And it also shows you how we're kind of integrating the improvements on Woodbine. And then also the note in the top right corner, if you see, we labeled the golf course there, and there is a drainage project now that is being designed by Tri-State Engineers. I reached out to them. They've started their design, and we'll be interacting with them too as to how it interacts with our system that we proposed here and how that'll improve the overall drainage aspect of this entire neighborhood. So that's, like I said, that's illustrated. It's right where that golf course label is. That'll be the general area, and that should be helping the Humanville Road drainage situation as well as the Woodbine Avenue situation.
And then I wanted to emphasize, if we grant this, we will be collecting a fee in lieu of.
Correct.
That would cover the cost of curbs and sidewalks in case in the future there's ever a project that the whole front area was done down to, say, West Bensalem or something, that we would have the money to put the curbs and sidewalks in front of that house.
That's
And
correct.
the fee in lieu of would cover at least
That's
the
correct.
ability to do that.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, is there any questions from any council members for our engineer in reference to the curbs and sidewalks?
I have a few. Thanks for that report.
Yep, no problem.
The tri-state work, do we have a timeline on that?
You know, when I called them, which was in the beginning of September, they said they would begin starting on it in October. I would assume sometime in November, they should have something for, and I'll talk further with the administration about us taking a look at that for review. And they were also told, we're doing projects, so we'd like to kind of coordinate that effort.
Okay, and thank you. The reason why I ask is I would expect that until that's done, that concern is that we're going to continue to have some water issues down there, especially when that middle home is built. Have we issued permits for that property?
No, we have not, because the concern is that any permits, in order to do that, has to have the curb and sidewalk waiver.
Okay.
And we don't issue any permits or approve any permits until council approves that waiver.
So would you expect that work to be done prior to that middle home being completed? The work from Tri-State?
You know, it's the only thing that's a wild card in this whole situation is Humanville Road is a state road. So if they tie into that drainage system there, they'll have to get state approval on that. And I think there was a mention earlier that obviously, you know, we can encourage PennDOT to move quickly on that because of the concerns.
Great.
But it'll go through a pretty extensive drainage review by PennDOT too.
Okay, understood. Thank you. And then the pipe, the new pipe that you had referenced.
Yes.
Were the residents notified of that work?
Yeah, we had met with them, and then I believe we met with them twice out there. And we actually went through the proposal and showed them what our thoughts were after an initial meeting that we had with them to kind of understand their concerns and understand the problems before we proposed this type of solution.
Okay. And then the property over the farthest away from Woodbine, I know when Quentin was here at the last meeting, we spoke of some additional work that was being done at that property, creating some additional impervious space. I know we put a work stoppage in that following day. Where are we at with that? Are we concerned that that could continue to cause problems due to the increase in the impervious?
Well, there's a couple of issues there. One, the additional impervious. Two, is that there is a swale that's located along that, what I'll call the southerly side of that, where they're proposing the sidewalk. We reviewed a alteration of land permit for that, and the concern is we rejected it because the concern is they have to demonstrate that that swale cannot be adversely impacted, which would turn adversely impact the existing neighborhood on the other side of that, the neighbor on the other side of that. Mm-hmm. So we've asked them to submit additional information.
So that's still pending?
Still pending.
And no additional work's been done
No.
since the work stoppage? All right. And then Mr. Knowles brought up a point as far as sidewalks, and I'm talking maybe just a whole stretch of Humanville. And was there any discussion or plans that the township had in the near future about the potential of putting or suggesting a program to possibly put sidewalks in there. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is more for safety reason. I recognize that I don't want to incur a fee with the residents, but, you know, and we had talked about using impact fee monies to maybe do something to that nature, just because of the fact that I'm sure all of us had heard concerns about safety issues and where we can try to mitigate some of that by putting in sidewalks.
Yeah, answer to your question is that no, we don't have a plan for Unionville Road.
Okay.
As you know, Bristol Road and Galloway Road, and we have problems all over.
Yeah.
Bristol Road's being addressed with PennDOT as we speak.
Yep.
That's being addressed on Bristol Road. I would suspect as we go into maybe phase 2 or 3 of the drainage in that area, I think that's something we can bring up at that time.
Okay.
As if we okay that district and allow the money to go into the second phase of Eddington and Cornwells and
Yep.
that area, I would suspect at that time we would put something in on Unionville Road.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay? Is there any other questions? Okay, so tonight we're really only considering giving a waiver for curbs and sidewalks. Now, the person a builder could put curbs and sidewalks in and not get a waiver, but they would have to go with PennDOT, right?
Yeah, he would have to get PennDOT approval for that,
But
correct.
we don't want them to do that, though, because it would cause flooding in other areas, other adjacent properties, including existing properties. Okay, is there anybody
Mr.
that...
President, can I ask the
Yeah.
engineer a question?
Yeah.
When we looked at the plan to put that pipe in, do we already have the easement to go through there?
There's an easement in the rear of the one property. I think we have to get an easement, those 2 properties, that front Woodbine where the pipe goes in between them, and now the existing pipe, I think, actually goes under the garage. That would be the one we would have to seek easement. Those 2 properties we'd have to seek easements from.
But the pipe is already there,
Yeah,
and doesn't that easement exist right there? I'm concerned about the whole thing because we went over this several times. But the part going through their property, like through the one that we're addressing right now,
right.
and the one next to it, I would like to know if that might be a good time to get that easement.
Yeah, and we're getting surveying done. Part of our proposal that we'll get will include surveying of that area, and then we can use that survey, that property survey, as the basis to prepare the easement. It
Okay,
would be a
make sure
good
we
idea to
that
get the
done as
easement.
part of
Yeah,
it.
agreed.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify too, if any plans for to build the houses that are there wasn't conditioned on the golf course being addressed. The golf course is just going to make that situation better but he still, in the current situation, has to keep the water for each house on his property.
Yeah, and that's the purpose of.
That's what the base. It's not
Yeah,
based on when
each
we get the golf course done.
Right, each one of those basins is, regardless, if you would build this house anywhere in the township,
Right.
you would have to propose, current ordinances require you to put in what they refer to as a small project stormwater management area. And that's what each one of these stone-filled pits that pick up all the roof drainage and as well as any driveway drainage they can pick up are put into those areas to seep into the ground.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, one other quick question. Previously, we talked about the house not fitting the way it's laid out here, as far as it being sideways. I mean, I'm assuming this is, we've seen an engineered plan, or has it been submitted yet?
The engineer plan was submitted, and in fact, I'll tell you, I looked at a previous plan where there were further subdivisions involved with these properties. That's, I think, I know it's been abandoned, and he's put in an alternate house layout in there in order to fit it into the existing lot area. Now, we haven't, from our standpoint of view, as soon as we see the curb and sidewalk waivers required, that has to come before council. If that gets approved, then we'll do a full and complete review of that property then.
Understood, thank you.
I will tell you, it's a much smaller.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
figured it would be.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have motion they'd like to put forward in reference to just giving the waiver of the curbs and sidewalks in lieu of,
In light of the concerns for the neighboring properties, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the request for a waiver of curb and sidewalks, subject to payment of a fee in lieu of.
I'll second the motion.
second motion. Okay, all in favor? We have Mr. Sloan, Mr. Kisbeck, I'm sorry. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote aye.
Any against? Okay, thank you. And Quentin is in the audience, if anybody wanted to grab him, speak to him, any additional questions. Okay, next on the agenda, number 8 was minor land development that was already moved to a date certain of November 12th. Next is a consideration and sign of the agreements for the Waterside Phase 2. Mr. Paizo, if you have this?
Yes, thank you. Copies of the agreements are in your packet. These are the Land Development Improvements Agreement, the Municipal Improvements Security Agreement, and the Land Development Improvements Agreement, the Stormwater Facilities Best Management Agreement, and the revised Impact Fee Agreement with Lennar Homes for Phase 2 of the Waterside project. The agreements were prepared by our office, have been executed by the developer. The required fees called for under the agreement, including the letter of credit in the amount of $1.446 million, has been posted with the township. The agreements are in a form acceptable for your consideration and approval at this time.
Okay, is there any questions for Mr. Paizo in reference to these agreements?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. On the land development improvements agreement on page 8, it references the improvements complete within 1 year of the date. Is that a realistic expectation that these improvements listed here will be complete within 1 year? Given their projected construction schedule?
I don't know if that is a realistic target date or not, Mr. Sloan. What the 1 year period of time does, however, is allows the township, after we hit the 1 year period, to have them come back and ask for an extension of the agreement, during which time we can then reassess the amount of money being held to determine if additional fees are required. It would not shake my sensibilities if council were collectively of a mind to say, Mr. Paizo, why don't we make paragraph 6 say 2 years? I'm sure the developer would be more than happy to sign a revised version of the agreement that says 2 years instead of 1. And then it'll come back in front of you in 24 months if it's not done instead of 12. That's perfectly fine if that's the way all of you would like to proceed.
I mean, I'm okay with the 1 year. I'd like to.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too,
I
because
want
it
to
gives them,
keep the
in
pressure on them.
case there's some
and
kind
try
of
and move forward.
situation going on, we can deal with it a year from now.
Exactly.
At least have a better chance at dealing with it.
Right. Something that looks to be added to the last page of this agreement is the walkway path. Is that supposed to be done after construction of the houses? Is there any indication of that?
I'm
Is
sorry.
that something that's done prior to?
Generally speaking, if we use Phase 1 as a guide, due to a number of concerns regarding the invitation of the public into the area where the houses are being built or construction activities are generally taking place, it was the request then of Mignati that the township wait until the first phase was complete before access to the river was made available to members of the public who live outside of the development. I'm assuming that we're going to try and maintain that same process in this case as well. again, for insurance reasons, safety reasons of the public more than anything else, not to invite guests or visitors who don't reside within the community in that area until all the construction activity is completed.
Okay.
I have the same question, the same premise. The Phase 1 is on this last street. I think it's Prince George, maybe the last street, I think it's named, and that's just about completed. So when that is completed, Phase 1, the Delaware, and there's weeds that are extremely high, and it's supposed to be a walkway. So that is going to be cut back and the walkway be put into place when Phase 1 is done before they go to Phase 2? Is that what you just said? Is that my understanding?
That is my understanding, and I believe, but I'll defer to Mr. Benner and Mr. Gans, but I believe, A, that is the case, and B, I believe that's what Mr. Carlo from Waterside and Lennar said at one of the earlier meetings on the revision to the Phase 2 plan, that Phase 1 will be made accessible once the...
Yeah, we questioned about that, and then people questioned what parts of it were in front of Phase 1.
Right.
I do know there was at least that patio area, and I was told that it will be made open to the public per their
I was hoping
agreement.
he'd be here tonight, actually.
Yeah, per their agreement. They have an agreement already with us that that's going to be the case.
Generally speaking, when these items come in front of you, we don't require the developer to be here, so
Right.
that's nothing on their part that they're not here and are expected to be. We generally don't require the developers to come for your approval of an agreement that the township's already prepared and they've already signed.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
That is one of the construction items on the list of construction items to be completed. So that'll be part of our punch list. If it's not done, it'll...
Then we'll hold the money till it's
we'll
done.
release the monies until it's done.
Right, okay.
So that won't affect the Phase 2 whatsoever, that being completed. It will affect only the escrow money, is that correct? Is that
In
what you're
Phase
saying?
1.
In Phase 1.
Right.
All right.
And I think, they have an agreement that they have to open it up once each phase is done, so they're going to have to stick to that agreement, which is a separate issue. But, okay, is there any other questions, or is someone put a motion to approve?
Well, I've got a few more questions. On the Stormwater Best Management Practices Agreement, page 5, paragraph 8, it says the municipality shall inspect the BMPs at a minimum of once every 3 years to ensure their continued functioning. I've got two questions. One, how are these inspections tracked here within the township? And then number 2, is 3 years too long of an interval given the stormwater management concerns that we've been having in that area recently?
I would say 1 year would be more realistic. 3 years is too long.
Okay, so we'll change this to 1 year.
If I may, the agreement, the language of the agreement is that the township shall inspect at a minimum, once every 3 years, at a minimum. We certainly can do more, so there's no need to change the language of the agreement. We can go down there and inspect once a month if we want to. The language of once every 3 years is what's required for us under state law, under best management practices. So
As a minimum, right?
That is the minimum.
Right.
If Mr. Gans is suggesting that it should be done annually, then it only needs to be administratively taken care of down in the Building and Planning Department. And I would suggest to Mr. Gans that he make sure that Building and Planning does whatever it needs to do to make sure that they're inspected annually. I don't know what the tracking procedure is, which is
Well,
what your
that kind
second
of goes back to
question
that first
was.
question then.
And
How do we
perhaps
track
Mr. Gans
that?
can speak to
Well,
that.
it's in our MS4 program. We have a long list of basins that we are supposed to check annually.
Okay.
But oftentimes, these are driven by complaints.
Mhm.
Somebody says the water's being held too long. That triggers an inspection immediately.
Okay.
So it's annually, but oftentimes based on complaints.
Okay, so given this, the floodplain and just the problems that we've generally been having in that state road area, can we commit to, at least for the next several years, doing an annual inspection of this to make sure that, we're addressing any concerns from the residents?
I think,
People don't always complain until
Right.
it's
The
way, way too
The
late.
MS4 program does require us to check all the BMPs annually.
Okay,
So we give them a list.
so it has to be checked annually no matter what, or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we have a list.
okay.
We have a program to track that. Okay.
All right, so,
Anything else?
on the impact fee agreement, at the top of page 2, there's reference to improvements related to I-95. But it sounds like it's from an earlier iteration of this, since this is a revised agreement. Can anybody speak to, what that initial agreement was and why it's no longer relevant?
I believe that's still planned, isn't it, Mr. Pisa? The 95 improvements in that intersection?
I have to apologize to all of you as to what revisions were made to the impact fee agreement. I was not the attorney in the office who was dealing on ground level with Lennar in that regard. So to the extent that the recitations of the background agreement state that any roadway improvements defined in the original agreement shall be limited to the extension of the 3-lane section of State Road and exclude any improvements related to I-95, as was referenced in the original impact fee agreement. I'm not sure what those changes are. Mr. Rudolph from my office was the one who was dealing directly with counsel for Lennar in that regard. So unless if Ron is not aware, I can find that out for you and get that information back to you, Councilman. But that is not something that, again, I was directly involved in those discussions.
Okay.
I know that over the course of time from when Waterside was first approved, these many 10 years ago now or more, the scope of what the off-site improvements were going to be has evolved, particularly with the fact that the landings project did not proceed forward. In the original, when things were being approved back 10 years or so ago, before the housing market bottomed out in the latter part of the last decade, the plans were that the respective residential developments on either end of State Road were going to be responsible for the improvements in front of them, in between them, and heading up State Road toward I-95. Again, since the strategic project is now not moving forward and doesn't appear to be moving forward anytime in the foreseeable future, in order to keep the Waterside project moving and to put those funds into some productive use, what the scope of their being required to do has changed. And so I'm going to assume that the reference to the I-95 no longer being a part of it, I'm assuming that that's what that is. Again, I wasn't
Sure.
in the weeds on this
Okay.
particular agreement, but my understanding is, and my belief is that's probably what those dollars have been shifted to other things at or near Waterside.
Okay. The other question I had, the last page of this agreement lists the total project costs in excess of 1.2 million, but then on page 2 of the agreement, it says the limit that we're requiring from the developer is, $1,128,112. So is there a reason for that difference? That the developer is capped at a number that's less than the total project cost?
I'm assuming that the 1.12 million is in fact what the impact fee is,
Okay.
and that the cost of construction of the project may exceed the impact fee, but that, again, legally, we can only
can't
require
always-
them to do
Understood.
what the impact fee has been calculated to
So it's
be.
1.2 million impact fee.
That's again what I'm assuming.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Okay, you have a question?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to go back to the impact fee, so, Mr. Pizzo, the 1.2 million it appears based off this agreement is earmarked for state road improvements.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Sure, I'm sorry.
That was a question.
So, as a means of reimbursement to the developer for any additional soft or hard construction costs of the State Road Improvement Project in its entirety, in anticipation, the cost of construction in excess of $946,000 covered in the original. The township shall also waive all future record. Boom. In the event the developer is required to spend more than $1.128 million on the state road improvement project, township shall reimburse the overruns. Boom. Okay, so, I'm sorry. One more time, your question is then?
The $1.2 million impact fee, we're basically waiving the impact fee in lieu of state road improvement.
Yes, we're taking
Okay.
money out of one pocket and putting it into the other.
Right, okay.
Yes.
And that's not, and that's not in front of the Waterside project, it's down further. So my next question then would be is how does that align with some of the funds that were budgeted for State Road for that same stretch of road?
I think that is mostly in front of the Waterside, isn't it?
The impact fee is not. The agreement specifically states that it's not sitting, and it actually gives you a picture, Mr. Knoll, that it's not in front of the Waterside development. And I know we, not to rehash the conversation, but I know we talked, or, you know, there was monies that was earmarked in the budget for this same stretch of road within capital projects. And I guess my question is that, you know, were we
I think
aware?
that was budgeted for state road.
This is State
This
Road.
is State Road.
But there was an immediate.
This is State
I know,
Road.
there
Yeah,
was
but it wasn't just for that particular specific area, it was
There
for
was, there was
state
immediate
road.
flooding that was going on at the time, and traffic was stopped, and cars couldn't get by.
And I recognize that, but that's close to that particular.
We couldn't wait for phase 2 to get done. Well, there's more than enough work needed along State Road to complete flooding. We didn't completely resolve the flooding. Out of the $2 million we earmarked for the budget, we only spent $200,000 of it, $225,000.
Good point.
So we used $225,000 to resolve an emergency situation near Columbus Country Club where cars could not get by and because of a crushed pipe or
Mr. Knowles,
something.
I'm not arguing that point.
Okay,
I'm asking you a question. That's all I want, that's all I need to know. Because keep in mind is that this picture.
Let me try to answer. So now, another $1.2 million is going to go also to improve flooding along State Road.
Got it.
There's flooding outside the yacht club, there's flooding on your way to the Columbus Country Club. There's a lot of flooding along there that 1.2 million may not even cover.
Understood. You know,
So
I noticed.
that's why we earmarked it, so we could resolve the Columbus Country Club situation outside there where cars, fire trucks, residents of this thing completely shut down, couldn't get by.
Was this always in the plan for this Waterside development, though, to do these state road improvements? I mean, this is a revised impact fee agreement, so I'm curious, was this just recently tacked on, or was this always in the plan that the Waterside developers, I guess Mignati at the time, would make those adjustments to state road?
The impact fee that's going towards that they're paying was for their project. In addition to that you don't see anyplace here, they're building the trail that goes through that property next
Right.
to this. As if you go down there, you'll see State Road all dug up. The original plan was when Strategic was there to meet this the other way.
Right.
And
And we had talked about that before, that they were
totally
going to
gone.
address this stuff right in front of the country club.
When strategic, if you don't, can I say something? When strategic was planned, this is just from memory, okay?
Yeah.
They were going down, they were going to extend Street Road down to the river. There was a roundabout, okay? And then they had a whole system along Columbus Country Club and all, that they were pulling water off of State Road. They had natural open space. Remember, we were arguing what open space would be allowed to be recreational or not. So there was a whole system that they were going to put in to alleviate the flooding right at State Road and Street Road, where they end up having severe flooding.
Right.
But then when that project went under because, you know, the economy went bad and that went under, then their plans to address that part of Street Road and State Road weren't ever done because no one's doing that project up there.
Right, and I know that property's tied up in litigation now.
Yeah, so I don't think that Waterside was ever supposed to go that far down State Road
Okay,
to address
that's what I was trying to
Columbus Country
figure
Club.
out.
That was Strategic's development, but when we had more developers, it was like, well, you do this part, you do this part, you do this part, and have them do the whole thing, I think was the kind of plan, you know, on a layman's term. But when they didn't do it, then because of some crushed pipe or something ends up PennDOT, you guys were down at the press conference, I wasn't there, but we ended up, State Road was getting flooded to a
Right.
point where people couldn't drive by. So we had to address it right away, and it got addressed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it got addressed.
Yeah, we got it all
Okay, so
fixed
that's
now.
my understanding.
Temporarily.
Based off of the picture that was provided, Exhibit A, was dated for 2008, so it appears as if this could have very well been part of the original
But
plan.
1.2 million is not going to resolve state road flooding.
I have just a couple other questions. Ron, maybe you can help me out with this. The escrow, can you just clarify, so we're getting a letter of credit, are we actually taking in 1.4 or?
Whatever the amount of the agreement is, it was based on the cost estimate. And that has to be posted in some form satisfactory to the attorney, letter of credit, bond, whatever,
Okay.
for the entire amount.
Understood, but it's really just a letter of credit, which essentially guarantees the money, which I recognize. Is there any expiration date to that letter of credit?
The letter of credit, which you say just a letter of credit, a letter of credit is tomorrow, if the township were to walk into the bank that posted the letter of credit with a site draft, the township could conceivably draw down the entire $1.4 million. So it is essentially the equivalent of cash. Does it have an expiration date? It does, but as is standard for standby letters of credit, the expiration date automatically renews for additional one-year periods continuously and perpetually unless and until the bank advises the township of its intention not to renew the letter of credit. They're required to do so in writing a minimum of, I believe, 60 days prior to the then expiration date, during which period of time the developer will either deliver to the township a new standby letter of credit in an amount then required, or the township would draw down the standby letter of credit prior to its expiration date and thereby take possession of the funds.
Okay, understood. And the reason being, asking, we talked about 1 year, 2 years, so I just wanted to clarify that. So we're looking at that expiration date of that letter based off of our decisioning for the public improvements. The page 8 also notes admin fees. Is that part of the letter of credit, or is that something that's?
They post a separate escrow with the finance department for all fees.
Okay.
It's not part of the letter of credit.
That's a cash escrow that's deposited with the township. The amount is based on a percentage of the amount that they're required to post through the letter of credit. That is there primarily to pay the engineers for the inspection costs, but it covers all of the township's administration costs. The township also takes a payment to itself of 10% on any payment that it makes out of the administrative fee. And again, once that hits a level that it needs to be replenished, the developer is required to replenish it in an amount as required by the township. Should they fail to do so, then the township stops work on the project until the necessary funds are deposited with the township finance department. That's the same escrow that when a developer comes in and asks for an extension or a renewal of the land development agreement, we ask that the engineer and the finance department audit that letter, or audit that account to make sure that sufficient funds remain. That's the account that we're referring to.
Thank you. One final question, I'll just go back to the letter of credit. Do we take into consideration the fact that if we do delay or make a vote in a year to push that off to 2 years, or are we considering that letter of credit and the dollar amount based off of increasing costs?
Letter of credit is based on a current cost of completion of the public improvements that is submitted to the township by the developer's engineer, reviewed by our engineer, and they agree upon a figure. Should we reach the point where the agreement needs to be renewed, and if it's determined that there do not remain sufficient fees on the face amount of the letter of credit, then the developer would be required to post a new letter of credit in an amount that would cover that. So the agreement currently and the letter of credit currently represent the current cost to complete the improvements. If 2 years down the road there are still things that need to be done, the engineer will look at the costs of construction at that time, again, to make sure that the then current costs 2 years down the road are covered by the then amount remaining in the face amount of the letter of credit.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Sloan agreed, and I agree with Mr. Sloan, that we're going to keep it at a year because this way it gives us the opportunity to look at that again. And then if there's a problem down there, we think that they're not doing the public improvements, and Mr. Gantz or our administration feels that the monies are not enough, then we will not extend it unless they give us more money.
Understood.
Okay?
Yep, agree.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to accept, consideration of signing the agreements with Waterside Phase 2, A, B, and C, the Land Development Improvement Agreement, the Stormwater Best Management Practices, and the Revised Impact Fee Agreement? Is there a motion? Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, so it's unanimous, approved. Okay. Okay, consideration of a reduction of permit fees for Cornwall's Elementary School located at 4319 Unionville Road, Bensalem, Pennsylvania. So I guess this is the actual elementary school as opposed to the Cornwall's Charter School. Okay, and this is for inspections of the sprinkler system. 50% reduction would be $36.50 to $18.25. A surcharge $2 off, a $4.50 charge staying the same. They're really requesting that it be, to check the sprinkler system would be a fee of $18.25 for the school, so we can help the school district out and keep their costs under control. Okay, and there's another fee from $25 to $12.50. So the total would be, instead of the charges being the original fees of $36.83.50, would be $18.44. Like I said, the bulk of that is checking the sprinkler system at a charge of $18.25. Okay, does anybody have any questions in reference to this request? Okay, does anybody want to make a motion to approve helping the school district out here?
I'll put that in form of a motion, reduce permit fee as suggested.
Okay, Mr. Kisselback and Mr. Polari, the second. All in favor?
Vote aye.
Any against? Excuse me. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor was yes, everybody, right? Unanimous? Okay.
Yes, unanimous.
I'm sorry, I thought you said I voted no. Okay. Okay, so it's unanimous for the reduction for the school district for Cornwall School. Okay. Going on to our next agenda item is public comment. Okay, so we have public comment. Is there anybody that would like to come forward in reference to public comment?
Good evening, gentlemen, Mr. Mayor. I have my name's Alan Windsor, 3232 Azalea Avenue. I'm sorry. I was up here at the last meeting and I asked you to check on Old Lincoln Highway and Bristol Road, and they started cleaning that area up, so I want to thank you guys for getting on the ball there and doing that. They've taken down the greenhouse area and started getting rid of all of the wood chips, so it doesn't look perfect, but it's a lot better. My second thing is I know Mr. Tony Belfield has gotten a lot of grant proposals for a trail that goes from the library into the event center over here, and then from the school here. Is there any progress on getting that work started or completed?
I think Tony can speak.
Tony's probably the best one to speak with. That's a county thing. That comes from a county initiative.
Yeah.
But Tony's here and he can
Yeah.
speak on it because he served on that board for.
Okay, I'd like it on record, that's why.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Gentlemen,
You want to introduce
my
yourself?
name is Tony Belfield, 2475 Greenland Court. I'm the chairman of the Environmental Advisory Board and a past councilman. Full grant funding was provided for the trail that will run from Imagination Land to Central Park to the amphitheater, and with including a connection across into the wetlands areas and beyond to the school district property. Those grant funds were obtained, so it's fully funded. I assume it's just within the township administration as far as engineering design, and will eventually be let for construction. When those engineers and design are complete, I would respectfully request, if you have final engineering plans, if you could share them with the board, we'd appreciate that. It's wonderful to see some of these projects and grants coming forward, and we do appreciate all the effort. One last, since I've been called up, one last comment regarding trails about one of your agenda items with the Waterside. In the past, when Phase 1 was constructed, it was required that they do the waterfront improvements first before they started land development. The reason for that obviously was that's a public improvement, and we want to make sure that got done and didn't get hung up during the development process. That obviously occurred because Phase 1 isn't completed, yet all those riverfront improvements have been completed. The property owner at the time did come before the township and reasonably requested that public access to that area be restricted because they were building along the waterfront at that time, and obviously you didn't want people walking out in that area and dodging dump trucks and heavy construction equipment to get there. And their insurance company also had to raise some objections concerning that unreasonable liability to incur, so the township did agree to allow them to restrict access to that area until such time as Phase 1 was completed. I understand Phase 1 is being completed, so I would respectfully recommend that, once again, the township requests that the developer complete that portion of the riverfront access area that would be part of Phase 2 and develop that area first. There shouldn't be no access issues regarding that because obviously Phase 1 would be completed and they'd have safe access through Phase 1 and just walk down the river into Phase 2, providing that public access area, and that would fit the template for future development down along that waterfront. It's a beautiful waterfront area. We've all been down there. The sooner that becomes publicly accessible to the residents in general, I think would be a benefit to the township. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, Alan, is good, right? Okay. And Alan, thanks for coming to the Fall Festival. It was nice to meet your entire family. I see him once in a while at Rita's Water Ice, but only one or two, but no comment. Yes, ma'am, you want to introduce yourself? Or?
Barbara Stakes, 43. Stakes, first name Barbara. 43, do I give you my? 4352 Linden Avenue, Oakford. That's Bensalem Township, 19053. Mayor DiGirolamo, Mr. Knowles, Mr. Kisselbeck, and Mr. Pileary. Gentlemen, this is the letter that the residents of Bensalem Township received along with their 2019 Homeowners Assistance Grant check. How in the world could 4 men forget that a duly elected body of Bensalem Township Council includes 2 Democrats? I'll ask again. How in the world could a Republican mayor and 3 Republican councilmen allow a letter from the Bensalem Township be mailed without the names of the 2 elected council members, Jesse Sloan and Ed Togmajian, who are Democrats? I'll answer for you, because it was not an oversight by the mayor's own secretary. Proud assertion. It was a purposeful act of retaliation. It was done because, quote, I'm quoting her, Mr. Togmajian and Mr. Sloan did not vote in favor of the new budget. That was the reason.
That's
a
correct.
budget, I might mention, that holds a $16 million deficit. However, I have it from 2 very good sources that voting against a $16 million deficit did not mean that Mr. Tokmajian and Mr. Sloan wanted Bensalem residents to pay the price with their reimbursement checks. You councilmen know very well that Mr. Sloan and Mr. Tokmajian work hard to save township residents their hard-earned tax dollars wherever and whenever they see possible. I think, in fact, I'm sure of it, it was done to influence the voting public by making yourselves look good and Mr. Sloan and Mr. Tokmajian look bad. Why? Why? Because there is a local election coming up on November 5th. And because there are two excellent Democrat candidates running for positions on Bensalem Township Council. Angela Caccio and Brian Allen. That's Angela Caccio and Brian Allen.
This is not supposed to be a political
The same
forum.
Brian Allen.
This is not
Excuse
supposed to
me.
be a political
Excuse
forum.
me, let me finish.
Okay, let's finish.
The same Brian Allen, you made this letter a political statement.
We didn't make that
The
letter.
same
We didn't make
Brian
that letter.
Allen, who when he became council member, noticed that the homeowner's reimbursement check had gone down from $300 to $100. It was after that the checks went back up to $300, but not before there was a year with no check. What if Mr. Allen had put out a letter saying that he would have sent out a check for $300 for the homeowner's reimbursement check, but his Republican counterparts didn't want to? What if Mr. Allen sent a second letter with his name only and a check for $200 taking total credit? Wouldn't you have thought him small and vindictive? For too long, you have bet on Bensalem Township residents being uninformed. You not only owe Councilman Sloan and Tokmajian an apology, but you owe every Democrat and every Republican in this township an apology.
The reason the mayor thanked the three council people is because, as you know, and you stated, they were the three council people who voted for the budget.
So what?
Well, that allowed the budget to be created to put the money from the general fund into the...
What? You're a fool.
I'm responding to you as you had
We let
made
you
your
talk, we
question.
let you talk, let Mr. Kisselback talk. Please, please, we let you talk, right? You asked us not to interrupt you?
Go ahead, 'cause
Okay,
I'm
let him talk.
Okay, the point again is because the three people who voted for the budget were Kisselback, Knowles, and Polari. The two individuals decided, Mr. Tokmajian and Mr. Sloan, not to vote for the budget.
Yeah.
The consequences of that vote would not allow the mayor to put money into the general fund to write a check to the homeowners grant.
That's
number one.
unacceptable. I'm
Well,
sorry.
well-
You are a full body.
I'm
Mr.
not
Kisselback,
finished.
it's also
Whether or
not
not-
true, or it's not entirely true, in the fact that a budget has to be passed. We are required by law to pass a budget. A budget would have been passed no matter what.
Which
No
cannot
matter
be a
what.
deficit
We
budget.
voted against
Which
a budget for
cannot
the
be a
reasons that we
deficit
voiced
budget.
at that time,
Balanced budget.
and
It has to
had
be a
nothing to
balanced
do with
budget.
that.
Yeah, but you
Mr.
voiced, you voiced...
Sloan, you had
Okay.
a written expose written before you came into that meeting, calling the mayor a liar, having it produced.
Having sat there and worked with every department head on the budget and understood where every line item came from, yes, I prepared a statement in case that's what happened.
And at the
And I read that into the record.
budget meeting, what suggestion did you make to cut back on the budget? Number one. Number two, we have, when you took into consideration the deficit, you took in the income of the earned income tax, the real estate tax, other functions of taxes, but you did not take in the fund balance, which is exactly $23 million, which allowed the budget not to become a $16 million deficit. And the $16 million that was spent for Bensalem Township and the residents of Bensalem Township. There was $5 million out of that $16 million that was used for the road improvements. There was police department, which is the phones that they use and the vests that they have. That was $600,000. I have other notes what they were. You had $2 million on State Road that we talked about, which means we didn't have to take a loan to pay that. We didn't have to take a bond issue. We used it from the fund balance of $23 million, okay? There was also...
Mr. Kisselback, I don't feel a need to rehash our budget discussion. We had that last December. I know. And that vote is done, and it's public record, and everyone can go and access that.
And you were very proud to take that vote, and you took credit for that vote, and now when the repercussions come from that vote, now you're crying foul. You're saying it's foul. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'm voting against the budget, and because I'm voting against the budget, I'm proud to do that. But then when you say, I want to have credit for something that you didn't vote for, you can't take credit for that.
Did I say that? Did I say I want credit for something?
Yeah, you specifically spoke up against putting $2 million down for the flooding on State Road.
That's not what we're talking.
Wait a minute. You specifically, no, I'm saying you specifically spoke up against that. And then when PennDOT had a press conference down there, you and Mr. Takmajian showed up at the press conference.
What press conference?
There was
no press conference.
There was a press conference down there.
There was no press
I wasn't able to make
There was a working meeting with PennDOT officials.
Oh, and you were there. And then
Sure, we were all invited to be there.
Then you went down to a homeowners association and took credit for
I never visited a homeowners
Well, we got
association
a letter to the township thanking Mr. Takmajian and Mr. Sloan for resolving the water issues on State Road. And you were at the whatever working press conference or whatever they had.
There was no press conference.
Well, there was pictures, there was press there.
It wasn't a press conference.
There were no pictures.
It was you weren't there.
I wasn't able to make it because I had to work.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But
So
you
it
took
wasn't a
off
press
work to be
conference,
there.
but it was
Normally, you don't
a,
go to meetings during the day, but you took off work to be there.
I did.
And I wasn't able to go because I had to work, so I apologize, it wasn't a press conference. It was a meeting of PennDOT officials, and there was pictures taken of people.
There were no pictures taken that day, not to my knowledge.
And then we got a letter from the homeowners association thanking you and Mr. Sloan for resolving the water issues on State Road, when you were against it in the budget. Now, first of all, I want to state, that the mayor is a mayor of Bensalem. I don't, and he's an executive. We're legislators. I had no knowledge of what was in the letter that was going out. Mr. Takmajian saw the letter before me because I found out that he was upset at Fall Festival. I didn't read the letter the next day. To me, the letter, I didn't choose the letter, I didn't plan the letter, I didn't write the letter, but despite that, I'm being personally sued for the letter because my name's in it. Now, do you think that's right? You think that's right? You're coming after my family because my name's in that letter? And you have no proof that I had anything to do with that letter?
And the reality
If you want to talk about litigation, we can do that in private.
You're suing me. You and Mr. Takmajian.
And that is not a matter for this council to discuss at
It's the first time in the history of the township that council people sued each other. It was in the Bensalem patch. It said, colleagues sued fellow colleagues. It used the word colleagues.
And
I would never sue your family for something I don't think you're responsible for.
The reality of it is, it's not, the reality of it is, it's not, well, it's a frivolous lawsuit, number one, and the reality is because you haven't even filed any papers in the court. You made sure, however, you filed the papers to the Courier Times and whatever news media would be because it's a political issue on your part.
And
if you were truly interested
I'm not going to discuss this now, and I don't think any of us should be discussing matters of litigation.
You're personally suing us.
I didn't bring it up.
And I'm not going to talk about anything at
what is your business?
That is not board business.
Why would you?
It's not.
Why would you single out? Okay, if it was the mayor who chose to do this, why would you single out? Shame on you. This is a council.
Ma'am, first of all-
I don't care who votes for what.
I don't want to speak to the
They
mayor.
are a total group.
Mr. Knowles,
That's wrong.
if I could jump in for a moment. This meeting will all be here till tomorrow if members of the public are going to come up multiple times and engage in shouting back and forth. So, no. So the ground rules tonight should be the same as they are any other meeting. Member of the public comes up, says their piece, and please go and sit down. Ma'am, please, ma'am, please. It is a council meeting. The purpose of the meeting and the way public comment runs every meeting, sir, and everyone, is that a member of the public is invited up, say what you have to say, then please sit down. But this is not public debate, and it certainly can't be a screaming match. Everybody has opinions. Everybody has opinions on any number of things, I assume, beyond just the matter that the resident just spoke to. So please, we have to try and maintain some decorum. And to the extent that there are discussions going back among members of the council that involve, obviously, a piece of litigation that now has been widely reported in the press among and between members of this council, it's going to be difficult at times for things to progress the way they normally do. So I'm happy to jump in where need be, gentlemen, because I'm not involved or invested in the issues perhaps tonight that some of you are going to be asked to speak on. But again, we have to maintain some degree of decorum or it's just going to be bedlam. So, and we have to recognize the chair. We have to recognize that everybody will have a turn to speak. We can't be yelling over one another, or A, the court reporter can't record it, but B, it'll be chaos. So if, I hope I wasn't out of line with that statement, Mr.
We should calm
President.
down.
But I think we all need to be reminded that the purpose of public comment is just that. The public gets an opportunity to comment. Council can respond as they see fit and as the chair will allow, but that has to be the ground rules, folks.
And I don't want to argue with anybody, but I don't think that that's factual, that Mr. Allen noticed it was only $100 and that's why it went up to $300. That's not a factual statement, but
No, that is actually factually very incorrect.
yeah, it's incorrect. It's not even close to being correct. But we know who's supporting who, but that's okay. But Tony, go ahead.
Tony Battlefield, 2475 Greenland Court. As a former councilman, I have to tell you guys, you were elected to serve a position, to serve this community. When you take actions for political reasons, whether you're Republicans or Democrats, you got to put on your big boy pants and take responsibility for it. The mayor issued a letter. He thanked those councilmen, all three of them Republicans, for voting for a budget that allowed him to do the homeowners assistance grant. He did not thank the two other councilmen, Democrats, who voted against it. He specifically stated that in the letter, that was his reason. Agree with them, disagree with them, but that's it. You make a vote, it affects everyone in this community, whether it's funding the police force, emergency services, or any of the other functions of this township. That's what your job is. If you vote against it, sure, you can hide behind the fact of, oh, budget has to be passed. Then put up an alternate budget. You had a year to work on it. You said you talked to everybody. You said you identified what you wanted, what you didn't want. Put out, you were really good at getting your lawsuit published all over the place. I read it today. Anyone can do it. Just Google Bensalem Township letter. A copy of your complaint comes up. The complaint specifically states who's being sued. Joe DiGirolamo, Ed Kisselbeck, Joe Knowles, Joe Polari. Not councilman, not mayor, those individuals. Specifically says who's doing the suing. Ed Tuckmajian, Jesse Sloan. So let's cut the bull crap out. It's being done for political purposes. Yeah, your nose got bent out of shape because the mayor sent out a letter and he didn't pat you on the back for something you didn't do. This is an election year. Every freaking year is an election year. Next year, God help us all, the way that the elections are going to be. Bensalem Township used to be a very pleasant place. We had Democrats on council. We had Brian Allen on council. And you could work with Brian, he wasn't a bad guy, but things were kept for the most part pretty damn simple. You didn't resort to the courts and frivolous lawsuits naming people that jeopardizes their families. You have an ethics clause in your contract where you're employed, or do you? Can you be fired for violation of ethics? If either of these four gentlemen are brought to court and that's decided, how will that affect them? Did you even give it a thought before you threw it out there, or did you think about the political gain that you would get by scoring a few nonsense political points? We got serious problems in this township. You think one of the problems is we spend too much money. Granted, that's a good point. Argue it. Come up with solutions. Work. Do the job that you were elected to do. And stop this frickin' petty bullshit crap. We get enough of it out of DC.
John,
We don't want it in Bensalem.
John, watch language, okay?
I apologize for my language.
Okay.
Mr. Miller, can I, real quick?
Can I speak again?
Can I?
Well, Mr. Technesian wants to speak.
Real quick, Mr. Belfield, as of today's date, we have not received a preliminary copy of the budget at this point, so we do not have 1 year to work on it. It's easier to work on it when we actually receive at least a copy of what it looks like. In addition to the fact that Councilman Sloan and myself, and I'll repeat, that we had sat with the director heads last year, and I think we went probably about 3 hours or better that evening, looking at that budget to see what we could do. And there were a number of back and forth banter that we, suggestions or comments, and it was myself and himself that was in that meeting, and the other three councilmen were not part of that meeting.
I've met with all the department heads prior to the budget, okay? And I show up to every meeting during the day that we're told to be at a 2-2 for development. And a lot of times, Mr. Sloan doesn't show up to a lot of them, and then he meets developers at night by himself.
I'm not going to argue.
You're not gonna argue?
All I'm stating is facts, and that I didn't see you at the meeting.
You're not the only one that met with the department heads.
Can I ask
We
you-
met with
can
the
I ask you a
department heads.
question?
It's not true.
How do you know that we didn't meet with the department?
I don't know.
heads?
I didn't.
You said we didn't.
I
You
didn't.
said we didn't.
I said you weren't at the meeting that Councilman Sloan and I were
Because we
at.
can't be. You can only meet in twos. You can't have a
You can't
quorum.
meet them.
Okay.
So, I mean.
Well, that's why we weren't there.
to
Don't
say
act
that
like we
that-
didn't care, we weren't doing it.
I mean, if you're going to be put it out there, make it right. Hey, Mr. Caleri, did you go to a meeting? Hey, Mr. Knowles, did you go to a meeting? Don't just say you didn't get, these guys didn't go to a meeting.
No, my understanding is that everyone met with the department heads.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that day.
thank you.
Okay.
May I speak again?
Yes,
Alan
go ahead.
Windsor, 3232 Azalea Avenue. I heard a very untrue fact when one of the people that just came up and spoke that Mr. Allen was the one that noticed a $100 reduction in the homeowner's grant, which is total fabrication. I come to every single meeting. I might have missed 2 in a year. I'm here for all of them. I kind of have a memory that remembers everything. And the reason for the $100 reduction was because of the economy. Well, I even spoke to the mayor about it at the time. It wasn't anybody's taking away money from Bensalem residents. I understood the reason why it was going on. And I even stood up here and said the following a couple years later, can we have $200 back and $100 a few years later? I was the one that asked that. And and if it goes down again, I'll come back here and ask it again. So unless the public wants to get their facts straight and come up here to speak, I don't think they should come up here and speak.
Thank you.
Anybody else next?
My name is Robert Norkus. It's spelled Norkus, and I reside at 4803 Bensalem Boulevard. And I've been in the community for about 5 years, almost 5 years now. And I started to take an interest in the community because I've been so impressed by some of the community services, particularly the police department. I've just never seen anything like it, to be quite candid with you. They're all great people. And So therefore, I wanted to attend a few of the council meetings and some of the school board meetings. And regretfully, I've noticed some undercurrents at the school board meetings, and it's hard to miss the issues that are before us today regarding a lawsuit. While I understand some people might object to the absence of your names in that letter, what I don't understand is how you could possibly sue someone personally. I've been in business all my life. I've run businesses that have done as much as $75 million a year. My business background is varied, and unfortunately, during that period of time, or fortunately, at times, I was subject to litigation. And I know the difference between personal and commercial or business litigation. And some people think that the absence of the names is a low blow. I think that suing someone personally is a very low blow. I took it upon myself, out of pure interest, to look at the budget for 2019, because at issue were some of the things that people have talked about regarding the budget, whether it's transferring of funds from a general fund or cash flow or what have you. So I thought, well, gee whiz, maybe there's an issue in Bensalem. We don't have cash flow. We don't have sufficient income, revenue. And to my surprise, we've been in pretty good shape. We've been through a lot, I guess, and I'm telling you, I'm here 4 years. I'm saying we, because I do feel part of the community. I'm vested in it now. I live here. And what I come to understand is that through the worst of times, the budget has been met. That's the years when there was a recession. I've also come to understand that, and what I noticed this in an independent auditor's review, that it was stated, and I'd like to quote it because it resonates with me. It's an auditor's report from December 31st, 2018. And what was said is that the mayor is responsible to make sure that the adopted budget is managed. I guess that's what he gets paid for. It's got to be one of the overriding issues, aside from public interest and showing up for photography and what have you. It's the budget. And it's millions of dollars. And talk about millions of dollars, so far I understand that, counting this year, $38 million has been returned to the community, $300 to each qualifying residence, $38 million. I gotta tell you, I have never, in all my life, never heard of $38 million being returned to a community. And I further submit that you might not see that in the future because, okay, so we got a casino here. I think that's pretty cool. A caveat to that. We were afraid, a little bit afraid, to come to Bensalem because there's the Parks Casino. And what does that imply? Well, in Atlantic City, where we used to live down the shore, it got pretty rough. It was pretty damn rough. Pardon my French. So that was a concern, but what we notice is that I don't see any undercurrents of garbage that goes on because of the committee, the casino. I'm sure it does. I'm sure the police are contending with different things. However, it's under control. So I applaud the police department, I applaud the mayor, and then I'm going to get back to the budget, meeting the budget. There's another quote that says that, and I go back to this auditor's report, it's the mayor's responsibility to make sure that the adopted budget is managed. In each of the past 25 years, the mayor has brought in actual year-end results better than approved appropriations, which means the budget. 25 years. That's on par of something that I have never seen being in business all my life. I don't know what the secret is, but the next line says, all costs are reviewed before purchases are made to make sure they're in keeping with the budget, as well as adhering to township policy. Well, there's son of a gun. There's how you do it, Mayor. You make sure that nobody spends more than they're supposed to, and you achieve this for 25 years. We're in the 26th year. My heartfelt guess is that December 31st of this year, the budget will be met. Therefore, I have an issue with voting against the budget and this financial machinations that you're referring to. It doesn't resonate with me. I think that overall, there is an outstanding job being done here in the community by this board, by the mayor in particular, when it comes to financial matters. And the last thing I have to say is not personal. I don't know you, and I don't know you. It's not personal. But I honestly believe that the suit that's been brought against these people, these other board members, individually, personally, will, in time, settle out to be nothing but a pile of minutia. That's for the stenographer, that's M-U, let me say, M-I-N-U-T-I-A. And that's how I'd like to end it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make out a couple points in a calm way. One, thank you for your speech. One, to give $300 back to each homeowner, it's a homeowner's assistance grant, okay? Because it's not, it was referred to somebody as a casino rebate. It's not a casino rebate. It's a homeowner's assistance grant. We're the only municipality in, as far as I know, and I can be corrected otherwise, in the state of Pennsylvania that got a casino that ever gave any money back to the residents. We promised to do it. I wasn't even on the board when they first set it up, but they set up a homeowner's assistance grant so we will be able to give some of that money back in excess. We had to hire police. I understand 17 new police and such. So over the course, we've given $38 million back to the residents by setting up the homeowner's assistance grant, which was set up by the administration and the council, which I wasn't even sitting there then, but so that's how we're able to give it back. But unfortunately, and the mayor in our town is a mayor, okay? He wrote the letter, okay? The letter is factually correct, all right? I did not write the letter. I did not see the letter. I didn't have a meeting about the letter. I didn't type the letter. I had to go home the next day and ask my wife to see the letter, to see what it actually said, because Mr. Takmajian was so upset about it. So I read it the next day, and it did say that we voted for the budget. Now, I asked one person if they were upset about it, and they said no. I looked at who was on the check, who the $300 was made out to. That's the only name I saw on there, you know? So, so I tried to say, do you think it's fair that he did this, you know? And they only cared about who the check was written to, but I did not write the letter. The mayor wrote the letter. So I don't know why I'm being and if I'm here as a public servant, okay, elected, but a public servant serving the public. So I don't think I should be held liable for the mayor writing a letter and putting my name in it that I'm going to be personally sued by other council member by someone who happens to be the solicitor of Bristol Township. Okay, so this is what I have to worry about now. So now because the mayor wrote a letter that put my name in it, Now I have to worry about them coming after me personally, or somebody losing their job personally about an ethics violation where, I don't know what, but now personally, I told my wife not to worry about it, okay? Because I was told by a local Democrat, don't worry about it, it's gonna go away. It's going to go away soon. It's going to go away soon, right after the election. That's when it's going away. So don't accuse people of doing things because of an election when you do worse things because of an election. Okay?
I accept what you had to say to me. I understand how you must feel. And I understand the casino relationship to funding and everything else.
Okay.
I might have misstated what I was saying, I'm not sure, but I understand that it's not
I appreciate that.
directly
You did a
from
great
the
job.
casino.
Thank you.
But I would like to reiterate that I have never seen such a magnificent financial system in play, for lack of words. And I understand about the credit rating that you have. It's very good. You're conservative budgeting and your style and everything. That's all great stuff. I guess I'm just going to leave you with the fact that boards, whether it's a board like this or a board in a business, they close the doors. And in our country, a board of directors in a corporation, we are known for having the most vicious arguments in boards around the world. Other countries are very polite, you know, the English might have tea when they're having their board meetings or whatever, but we're pretty tough. Maybe we can put on our big boy pants and do that here instead of suing each other.
I'd also like to make a comment. How many times you're going to come up, I don't know, but I'd like to make a comment based on what you just said earlier. First of all, you were right. We have an AAA rating, which is probably one of the best you can have in a municipality our size.
No, we just got congratulated for it tonight.
No, exactly.
No,
right.
we just got congratulated for having an unbelievable rating.
As I said,
credit rating.
As I said earlier also, you cannot pass a deficit budget. You cannot. It's by the law of Pennsylvania. It has to be a balanced budget. So there has never been a deficit budget because it's impossible to do in Pennsylvania. And number three, when it comes to the homeowners grant that we're talking about, there was a time that we had gone down to $100. And that's when the economy was very, very poor. And we had to borrow money from ourselves to meet our expenses. And when we did that, the mayor still insisted that we continue the homeowners grant because we did lower it to $100. But at one point, when you're borrowing from yourself, you have to say it doesn't make sense to continue giving out this amount of money when you have to meet your expenses for the police department, the employees, the road department, and just meet our expenses. So that was the problem. Now, by the way, since we passed the earned income tax, we are in the best financial shape we have ever been in. I believe we're never going to have to raise taxes again, and even at that, some other people didn't vote for that budget or that proposal either.
All right, so here's my final statement.
Ma'am, I'm going to give you an opportunity.
Why?
Miss, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak again, but you can't keep coming up over and over again. Other people have to speak.
Why
Again, ma'am,
did you
this evening is
divide?
not debate.
It's not a debate we're having with you
divided-
personally.
You divided the council by sending a letter.
The council didn't send the letter. That's my point. The council didn't send the letter. That's what you don't understand. The mayor sent the letter. I didn't send the letter. It's the mayor's letter. No, I didn't see the letter before it went out.
I saw the letter Monday at 3 o'clock.
I saw
That's
it
when I
Sunday.
saw the letter.
What do you have to say, Mayor?
When we all get done, I have my statements. I'm not going to debate everybody on this floor tonight. I have a
Do you think
statement.
it was wrong of
I
you
can
to
talk off the
eliminate their
cuff, and I
names?
can come up
Joe.
there and speak as a citizen.
He's going to make a statement about me, and that's what he says, okay? So can you let other people speak? Let other people speak, okay? It's not a debate between
That's
you
what
and the
I
mayor.
just said.
You already had your
It was
time.
wrong.
You had your time. You already said it was wrong. You had made a big statement, okay? We heard your advertising, okay? Anybody next?
Barbara Zeidler, 1108 Ohio Avenue. And I don't want to talk about the letter. I saw in the paper just this past week that another township, I believe it is reopening this whole issue of the Sterling Act. And I was wondering if we can get into that too, because that certainly is going to bring money back out of the city and into Bensalem where people live, so.
Actually,
Oh, okay.
Barbara,
But there-
actually, it wasn't another township. It was two state representatives from Bucks County.
Right,
Representative Wendy Thomas and Representative Frank Farry.
Thank you.
They did it on behalf of the Bucks County Association of Township Officials, where the mayor sits on the board. The mayor has been actively engaged with Picado, with the state representatives, with Senator Tomlinson, who's introduced similar legislation in the Senate, all of which, as you say, is geared toward bringing Sterling Act dollars back to Bensalem, which they have not, the Sterling Act was adopted back in the Depression, approved by the State House and the legislature at that time to help the city through the Depression.
I was
It
gonna
has
say, wasn't that
remained
in the
in
30s?
place.
Yeah.
Yes.
1934.
But so it's not neighboring townships,
Sucks.
it's neighboring state representatives who are working in concert with the County Association of Township Officials. Bensalem belongs to it. Bensalem is in on the ground level in this, as it has been for years, in trying to get that Sterling Act at least modified so that Bensalem resident dollars that are being paid to the city in wage tax can come back to Bensalem to help pay our police and pave our roads rather than police officers and roads in the city of Philadelphia.
And for years and years, when we didn't have one, Philadelphia got to collect it and keep it all. But now that,
Incidentally, Montgomery, Chester, and Delaware are joining us. Those counties, we're all getting together. And
do you
to
think
get
that's
some
going to
kind
give
of
you more
accommodation
strength in
to
this
get it to work, yes.
to make it happen?
I'm very hopeful. Been working on it since I've been the mayor, so we'll see. It took 26 years so far.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? Okay. And with that, I'm going to close public comment. We'll have other business. Yeah, we're going to make other business. Yep, other business.
Certainly speak for
Okay,
myself.
Mr. Mayor, we're going to other business. Mr. Mayor, do you have other business? Or you would like to address anything?
Yeah, first of all, I've been doing this job for 26 years. I was a very successful businessman. I volunteered in this town for 4 years before I was mayor, built this building, did all kind of economic development for the community, ran the tricentennial, did all kind of things for this great community that we live in today, that I'm so proud to be the head of the administration, but we do it as a team. Nobody, no one person can get anything done by themselves. It takes a team to accomplish what we want to do and to get things done. I've been doing that since I got here. If anybody goes back, how many people 26 years ago when you were here, 27 years ago, this town was deplorable. It had no budget. It was behind. It didn't have money. We came in and we ran a team to get this township where it is today. And it's a great community. I was born here, raised here, married here, baptized here, die here. It all is Bensalem. I bleed Bensalem. We've never, hold on, guys. We've never had this kind of way of going about things. Never in my life. You want to talk about a big boy? Did I get up and say anything when they wrote in the paper that I was a liar? Did I say a word? No, I kept quiet. They called me a liar in the budget. They both signed it. They both put their name to Joe DiGirolamo, Mayor of Bensalem's a liar. In the real world, we would address that. But in the political world, so they can make points and do stuff, I let it go because it's not worth it. I'm not going to fight with people over silly things. This town in 26 years, we have never, ever raised your real estate taxes. 26 years. Not me, a team. A team has accomplished that. I am so darn proud of Bensalem Township. Wherever we go, We are recognized in the state. How did we get money out of the casino? I was out there at 7 o'clock in the morning the day of the vote. The day of the vote. They weren't going to give us any money or any other casino. We fought for that. We got our $10 million up there that day. With a team. Not Joe DiGirolamo. With a team, that's right, with a team. With the council. With everybody working. Gene DiGirolamo, Senator Tomlinson, everybody working to get it done. We made a pledge when that casino was coming in. We made a pledge to give money back as every dime that we could to the people. We went through many, many years here. We went through 10 years of depression. Maybe you didn't live through that. Most people did. We continue to make sure we gave something back. We continue to do that. Who gives back $5 million a year? Anywhere. In the whole state of Pennsylvania. You have casinos all over. I have given everything drop I have in my body for my community. And I'll continue to do that, whether I'm mayor or wherever I'm at when I retire, if I live that long. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a great community here. I grew up Democrats. I grew up with everybody. We could debate. We could say things. We could have fun. We get done, you'd have a beer. Not anymore. It's hatred. It's hatred. I don't hate anybody. I have kept quiet. I have endured. My family, what they have endured is incredible. In the last election, I can't forget all these things, ladies and gentlemen, but I do want to. I want to carry on with the job that we have to do here to work with Democrats, Republicans, with anybody. I pledge to do that. But we can't go on like this. This is too great a community. Do you realize where you're at? Between Philadelphia, New York, Trenton, everything is here. Everything goes through Bensalem. We need the best police force we can have. They are 75% of our budget. We must provide the safety and welfare of this community. Every one of us up here, when we get sworn in, we swear to uphold the safety and welfare of our community. That's what we're about. We don't have to stand up here and sue each other and fight with each other. We can debate issues. Bring up a new budget. Put your budget up. Do everything the right way. I'm pleading with everybody here in Bensalem. No matter who you stand for, you're a Democrat, Republican, you're an independent, or whoever you are. Think of your families. I think of mine every day. I took such a beating last time. My wife had a stroke the day after. Attacked my family, my grandson who was dead.
Take it easy, Joe. Relax. Okay, we got it.
All right, Joe, you good?
We got it, Joe.
It's not fair, guys. It's not fair either side. Wake up. Let's run Bensalem as a community. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Mr. Pizzo, do you have anything to add?
How do you follow that? The mayor talked about family. I was hoping I'd have a chance to see my daughter play in an all-star game this evening. Got rescheduled because of the rain, unfortunately, because of the length of what should have been a 20-minute meeting. I got to miss that, so I just want to give a shout out to my daughter. I'm proud of her, and I'm sorry I didn't get to see it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gantz, do you have anything you need, or no? Mr. Sloan, do you have anything to add? Okay, Mr. Takmazian, do you have anything else?
Yeah, just one thing down there on, off of Bristol Pike. I know we had asked about it before, the Andalusia's supply. I was hoping maybe someone could give us an update on that, or if there's any update.
The Anderson Supply House off of Tennis?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I don't have anything on it. No, we'll have to get an update from Ken Farrell. I don't know of any. Hey, Deb, can you mark that we want an update in reference to Andalusia Supply? There was disputes with the neighbors, the neighbor in particular, about the storage being various issues about traffic and trucks, and they supposedly had a resolution to it, but I don't know what it was. I haven't heard much about it since. Okay, Mr. Kisselback, do you have anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I'm just going to add something from my point of view, is that I've been on council for 23 years. I worked with the mayor before he was the mayor. We've worked on a number of boards. Everyone on this board is interested in the good of Bensalem, regardless if you're a Republican or a Democrat. However, to be honest, after 23 years, to have my neighbor, who I saw grow up as a kid, sue me personally because something I didn't do, as Mr. Knoll said, I didn't even see the letter until Monday at 3 o'clock when my wife opened up the check, is very disheartening. I know that we have worked together, Republicans or Democrats, and I know that this year Bensalem has become a better township because we have worked together. However, I can't conceive of this continuing with the animosity and I think precipitated by those who are not even in this room. And I was very, very disheartened that we have come to this point in the political arena and in the history of Bensalem Township. That's what I have to say.
Okay, Mr. Polari, do you have anything to add, or?
Yeah, go Flyers, I'm missing it.
They got a good goalie now.
No, I can't follow everything that was just said. The gentleman who said that the mayor has done a fantastic job, the things he's done with this township, working together with everybody to make this one of the best places in the United States to live. We have a police department that is better than any police department in the state of Pennsylvania, and I'll go as far as saying in the United States, and that's because of what the mayor does with the budget and what the council does supporting it. And everybody in this township should be happy about that because it keeps them safe. It keeps their children safe. They do drills with the schools to make sure that everybody knows what they're doing, fire drills. You know, if there's a gun, if somebody has a gun in the school. I mean, all the things that get done in this township are just phenomenal. And they don't just happen because. It happens because you have a good leader and a good crew to work together with that leader to make it happen. And I think that there's just too much pettiness in politics these days. And it's getting worse and worse and worse every year. And it's such a shame that it has to come to that. We have the best community in the world. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But, you know, when it gets to the point with what's going on in this community now and going on in the United States, it just makes you wonder.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, again, I apologize if I lost my temper a little bit, but it's hard not to take it personal when it's personal. But anyway, again, I would just like to reiterate a little bit that the letter that was sent out was factually correct. It did not mention any party. It did not mention anything like that. All it did was thank the people that voted for the budget. Now, whether that was right or wrong, or the mayor should have sent a letter out like that, you know, I don't know. But I certainly don't think it's worthy of being sued over personally. And then have people arguing, oh, you have to get your own attorney. You're being sued personally. You have to get your own defense. I'm going to have to spend money on an attorney to defend myself because I'm on council, and the mayor sent out a letter with my name on it. To me, that doesn't make sense. Okay, but if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. Okay, so I figured it's only going to cost, well, whatever it costs, I got 300 hours back already, so I'm already ahead of the game. You know what I mean? So, all right. Won't be the last time. Okay, so let's hopefully we can get along and work together on the next budget and be a community that works together again. And with that, I'll make a motion to close.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
All right?
Okay.